Welcome to Group Dates and Hot Takes, a Bachelor Nation podcast. I'm Sampy.
I'm Christy. We're recapping Bachelor in Paradise.
Well, Christy, we've made it into week 5 now. Mercifully, only one episode a week now.
Yeah, we're coming down the home stretch, I think. Not too many episodes left.
Are we going to be going into October or not?
I am not sure. All I've seen is the calendar for September.
Okay. Well, so we have no idea what's going to happen, but we'll be here every week until this finally ends.
I don't know. I've kind of been enjoying it a lot this season. Lots of drama and mind-blowing moments.
Well, Christy loves drama and mind-blowing moments, so I guess I'm happy for you. But as I always do to open each episode, what's going on out there in Bachelor Nation? What do we need to talk about?
Well, just a follow-up to last week when we were talking about Natasha and Brendan's Instagram followers.
Mm-hmm.
So Natasha has gone from 84,000 before last week's episodes to 442,000, which is insane.
Wow.
And Brendan has lost about 100,000 followers. I don't think I've ever seen anything that drastic based on just one episode before.
Yeah, that was a pretty violent reaction to his behavior for sure, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, and Pieper has been doubling down in the tabloids about how she doesn't have any regrets about what happened. She also posted to her Insta story after last night's episode being like, I just want to clarify that, like, Brendan and I were not in an exclusive relationship before Paradise started. Which is just not even the point of why people are upset with them. Like, she just totally missed the point. So it appears they have not learned anything.
Were you expecting them to?
I don't know. It just seems like after all the backlash, you might want to take a step back and understand why people are upset. But that did not happen, at least not for her.
I just hold Bachelor contestants to a very low standard, personally. And have very low expectations in terms of behavior.
Yeah, and then one other little tidbit. Rachel Lindsay was on a podcast and revealed that Brendan had mentioned to, I don't know if it was other contestants or producers, but he was interested in lighter-skinned black women, but yet he attached himself to Natasha, who is darker-skinned, and dragged her along until Pieper arrived. So that's just great.
Yeah, that always makes me a little uncomfortable when people make comments like that, because obviously people are entitled to their preferences and stuff, but things regarding colorism can be pretty entrenched, and I feel like if you were to combine those comments with the comments that and I just want to say, kept repeatedly making, I mean, he said this, I want to say 3 times at least across 2 episodes, just about how Natasha had no other prospects at all. Which is just
bad.
It's probably one of the most terrible things you can do on a show like that. It's just such a low, skeevy thing to say.
Yeah, it's so mean.
I don't worry about it. She nobody else would have liked her anyways.
Oh,
but what I say is if you kind of combine that with his other comments is not the most flattering image of his behavior, as well as if he's just like, yeah, I only like lighter skinned women, and then he's also like, yeah, this dark skinned woman just would never have anybody interested in her. It's not the best look.
Nope. Yeah.
I just want to say, I didn't like him from the very beginning.
That is true.
I said some mean things
something
off the record that we didn't include in the actual episode. Yeah, well, I guess I'm kind of glad that this is over, but I will say this is probably going to be a pretty short episode because really not much of anything happened this week.
Yeah, it was kind of just a continuation of last week. Like
finally get some. I was just gonna say we finally get some closure.
Yeah. So essentially, a bunch of the contestants are discussing Brendan and Pieper and how what they did wasn't great, and at this point, it's like the cocktail party, and then Titus, what is his last name, Burgess?
Burgess
comes in and says, "Oh, if you're in a relationship, that defeats the purpose of coming."
Yeah, as the camera pans over to Pieper and Brendan, and they're both just looking very, very, very much like dog who pooped on the carpet and is now sitting in the corner, like that sort of face.
Yeah, they looked very guilty. And so essentially a group of them, Joe, Deandra, Maurissa, Demi, Justine, and Natasha over to confront them. So that was also pretty funny. You see the camera like pan to that whole group coming, and Brendan's like, uh-oh, they're coming for me.
Yeah, which also, it just like reminded me of some sort of, I don't know, circus clown car, is because they're on that, whatever they call them, date. Do they call it day bed? Like, what do they call those things?
I don't know what day bed means. But, yeah.
But Brendan and Pieper are laying on that thing, and then Joe and all these other people come and like collide. It's like this like circus clown car as all of them like pile onto this piece of furniture.
Yeah, it was very funny. He tried once again to explain himself, and it just did not go well for him because there is no defense for what he did. He's like, oh, I never promised Natasha anything. He does admit that he saw Pieper the day before he left. Which, once again, how do you not realize maybe I shouldn't be here?
Yeah, he spent a lot of time trying to make this distinction and say that he wasn't lying because, yeah, well, he may have seen Pieper as part of a group, you know, like 10 times. He only really, like, went on dates with just her a couple times. I wrote in my notes here that Brendan says nothing of value.
That is true. He even tries, like, when they ask, like, well, why'd you even come? He's like, oh, I got to spend way more time with Pieper than I would have otherwise. I'm like, the two of you could have done that at home. You didn't need to be in paradise.
I know what's stopping them outside of paradise? Like,
nothing.
They're both
the
adult.
Point.
Like,
they're just here to get famous.
They would never do that.
And then Brendan's like, oh, I've said everything I need to say, and I'm removing myself from this. And then Maurissa.
I loved this clapback.
I know, it was so great. She's like, from paradise or this conversation?
Yeah, I just don't get the complete blindness, and maybe just just trying to save themselves by like this whole maintaining innocence.
I know, like the jig is up.
Makes no dang sense.
And then after they like walk away from the group, you hear like kind of like ITM / just their conversation. Brendan's complaining about Joe and his mob of disgruntled females. He just keeps digging the hole further and further. He said, "This is a pathetic attempt to discredit me." He called somebody salty. I don't remember who that was. Once again, saying that Natasha has no chance with any guy here. And then Pieper just like continues the pile on. It's like, of course I'm excited for the possibility to make more money. But like, I would have gotten there on my own. I have a marketing degree.
Oh, my word.
These two are so clueless. Like, they look so foolish.
Such a disaster.
And then at one point you see Pieper like, "I told you I didn't want to come."
Like, yeah, they definitely didn't have a plan ahead of time. They're totally innocent, Christy. They're innocent. Don't you believe them?
It's getting harder and harder.
You're just believing Joe and his mob of disgruntled females? Oh, it's so terrible. Why? Why would you do this?
They leave.
After all that, all just just completely wasting our time for so long, and all of this proclaiming of innocence, and I was like, yeah, I thought like it would be nice to see her, but we definitely didn't have anything going on beforehand. Like, after all of that, they're just like, "Oh, fine, you got us. We're just gonna go."
What I thought was really funny was that shot of them in the limo looking absolutely miserable.
So here's a question for you, Christy, and I don't know if you're able to share this or not, but since this has now happened in the show, are the two of them still together in real life?
They've been spotted out like before these episodes aired. I don't know if these episodes will have an impact on them at all, but before last week, I would say they were. I don't know the status now.
Yeah, that is so hilarious to me. I just it's the fact that he lost 100,000 followers.
I know, just in the limo, he even said, like, "I didn't lie. I just like withheld information."
Yes, that's definitely, yes, for sure. You didn't lie at all.
Just such a disaster.
Yeah, it's it's so sweet to see that 100,000 follower loss, and then how Natasha like grew her following by like 5 times, over 5 times.
So many.
Oh, so funny. I enjoyed watching them crash and burn.
I know, it was a delight.
So, can we just end this week's episode here?
No.
We have to. Can we skip to the rose ceremony?
We should at least briefly talk about it. So what follows?
Well. So first of all, this is such a terrible pickle because not much happened in this episode. So we're already going to have a very short recap this week. But this section was like only one of like 2 things that happened. So we have to talk about it because there's nothing else to talk about. But I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, this was perhaps the grossest thing I've ever seen on this show. Like, so we see, like, I guess in the midst of all this, apparently
Yes.
Noah and Maurissa, I guess, had talked, and he was like, yeah, she's got something freaking nasty planned for him. So this was like a whole setup thing. But like, Maurissa and Riley have whipped cream and a bowl of like pieces of paper with body parts written on them. So they're like each drawing like a sheet of paper, and then they have to put whipped cream on whatever body part comes up on the sheet of paper. And like, it was
and
so
you can't leave off that it's not just like, oh, forehead. Okay, I'm gonna put whipped cream on you for you. They actually have to eat it off.
yeah.
Ah!
So like, first body part drawn is thigh. So the whipped cream goes in her thigh. He licks it off. Next, lips. Just so gross. And then her chest is next, which like he's got her face like buried in her chest on ABC in prime time. Just I don't know how this made air.
I had to like put the black box over her chest because she, like having a wardrobe malfunction as this is happening.
She was already wearing like a low cut dress to start with. And then came feet.
No, I don't. No. I don't think it was just feet. It was literally toes.
I don't remember what the paper said, but the whipped cream was on his big toe, and she like slurped it off. It was so nasty. And then like Sampy yelled, "Why are we watching this show?" As this happened.
I was deeply disturbed, okay? All right, I was deeply disturbed. All right, I feel like this is perhaps the most we have ever been on the same page as far as Bachelor stuff goes. Because I just want to point some things out, right? Because Wells, they did cut to Wells, and he said some things, but it is way worse than what he said, okay? All right, they are on a beach in Mexico, all right? They've been walking around. They didn't go and, like, wash off before this happened, all right? They've been walking around in this sand, all right? So, first of all, sand. Then you have, like disembodied crabs that you're walking in. You have bird poop you're walking in. You have fish poop you're walking in. Like, and the list just goes on and on. And there's no like preparatory wash. It was just whipped cream on the big toe, and then she just like swallowed his entire big toe. It was potentially the grossest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen a lot of gross things.
Yeah, it was so I don't get the appeal at all. I don't understand.
I mean, if you're gonna do that, at least like wash your feet first. Like, you walk on those things.
Yeah, the whole like paradise location is not the greatest to start with. It's not like
it's not sanitary.
It's not like they were in like a 5-star hotel doing this.
It's unhygienic. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not a germaphobe, but that was literally the worst.
Yeah, I was dying laughing through this whole thing just because it was so outlandish and ridiculous.
I was screaming the entire time. And Christy was laughing at me the entire time.
I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at what I was watching.
Okay, sure, because it seemed to be related to my response, okay?
I mean, that might have egged me on a bit.
Oh, okay,
That's
sure.
not why I was originally laughing.
Yeah, I was deeply disturbed.
It was disturbing, I must admit.
I almost retired from podcasting then.
And then they carried the whipped cream into the bedroom. We can only imagine what happened after that.
I don't want to.
And then, like, they came back out, and she called it the best chocolate sundae she's ever had, which just added to the disturbing factor.
Yeah. I mean, I guess she's like allowed to say that since she's black too, but it's a little weird.
Yeah, it's yeah. So we can move on to Tammy and Thomas, and this was rough.
Rough, but I definitely saw this coming.
Well, yeah. I mean, after last week with Becca and Thomas going on their date, this was not going to end well for Tammy. So she like sits him down and she says, "Oh, I trust you. I see you fitting into my life." And
terrible decision.
I know. Just she tells him he's a great fit. Her best friend? What? You just met him a few days ago. But
Christy, things move more quickly in paradise, okay?
Somebody pointed out on the internet, I wonder what her actual best friend thought as they watched it.
Wait, I thought we had a good thing. We've known each other for decades. Thomas, you're my best friend.
So then he has to break the news to her that the date with Becca went really well.
He's such a terrible person.
He doesn't want to steer her on. That should have been lead her on, right? He also has feelings for Becca, and he doesn't feel guilty about them. And
well, of course not.
No.
Because here's the thing, all right? Here's the thing. As great as it is for Thomas to, first of all, steal someone that Aaron has been going out with, it's also great because he then gets to sort of be in league with a villain. However, a Bachelor Nation villain is not as high status as a former bachelorette. And he's climbing that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to make it to the top.
Yep, Tammy was just a casualty.
Mm-hmm.
And then at this point, we have Aaron chiming in again with his "I told you so." Still not a great look.
He's still a little too happy about that, personally.
Yeah, he needs to back off. And then here Tammy starts to beg, which was very uncomfortable. She's like, "I'm willing to fight." She keeps asking what he sees in someone else. What can she do? It's like you lost. You can't. You can't.
Yeah, you gotta accept that it's all over. You did your best, but you're never going to be as helpful as a former bachelorette.
Yeah, she's like, "I trusted you with everything."
I just, as sad as it is, it was like, this is probably going to make me sound like a terrible person, because I was kind of cracking up about this a little bit, because her ITM after all of this, she's like, hey, how everything's just been going so terribly for her, and it's she's been dumped now on her birthday, and she didn't think things could get any worse, because last year she got COVID on her birthday, and all this different. I'm just like, oh man, it's kind of hilarious, but also I'm very sorry for you.
Yeah, I don't quite get how this was worse than getting COVID.
One could argue that she dodged a bullet.
Yeah. Plus, you're on TV, you're probably gaining followers. I would take that over getting COVID.
Wow, very practical of you. Yeah, no, I feel like someone in a relationship with Thomas, if they knew like what was good for them, they would like never be comfortable being in a relationship with Thomas. Like, he just seems like somebody who's always going to be like stretching the truth and trying to kind of bend things to result in the outcome that he wants, and just all that, like that constant like disingenuous like smiling like a freaking psychopath.
Yeah, there's something about him that is slightly like untrustworthy, but at the same time he hasn't really done anything terrible. Like I just don't like his vibe, I guess, very much.
I hate his vibe.
And they cut to Becca making out with Thomas while Tammy sobs.
Mm-hmm.
The editing on the show is something else.
Poor Tammy. Goodbye, Tammy.
So it is time for the rose ceremony.
Dun, 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 dun.
And I don't think I've ever seen this before, but like Wells comes out and basically says because everything is ripped away from Natasha, they're going to bring out an extra rose for her. Which, wow, what a privilege. Which, since she is already an employee of ABC, kind of makes sense. But
oh, so you think it's because of that?
Not because of, but I'm sure that helps in this kind of situation.
Wonder if she like had that in the contract, like if I don't last to this certain point because I work for you and do this podcast for you and slave away for you, you're gonna find a rose somewhere for me.
Perhaps.
Yeah. I just again just had to bring up the whipped cream again. So
oh yeah, when Riley handed his rose to Maurissa, he calls her my little whipped cream baby. Cringe.
Very disturbing. I was disturbed.
So Joe gave his to Serena.
Huge surprise.
Ivan
Didn't he like jokingly like ask her to marry him basically? When he gave her his rose. Do you remember that?
That sounds familiar, but I forgot to write it down, so.
Unbelievable.
And then Ivan gave his to Kendall? I don't remember how this started, or if we were ever shown it or
we
not.
haven't. We haven't really seen anything about that. Ivan just hasn't, as far as we've seen, hasn't really had a connection with anybody since he was abandoned.
Yeah. Noah gave his to Abigail. Kenny to Mari.
And Demi goes down fighting to the last.
Yeah.
Which, it's just like sticks her tongue out at him. But speaking of Demi, though, since we will never speak of her ever again because she's gone, I just wanted to bring up from the beginning of the episode when all of them were confronting Pieper and Brendan, how they like had Brendan and Demi had like this little exchange where she was like flipping him off, and then other people were asking them like what was going down, and Demi was explaining things, and somebody was asking her like if she'd been there, and she's like, yeah, like I was very involved.
Yeah, she was,
which cracked me up.
Very self-righteous about this, especially considering she came to the beach with a girlfriend last time. But we don't talk about that.
No, that didn't happen. That did not happen. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, so basically, I didn't understand the Ivan to Kendall rose or the James to Tia rose.
Yeah, I don't remember them talking at all, but I guess when the guys have the rose, they got to pick somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So
it just seems like It just seems like there isn't a whole lot of reason for James and Ivan to be here, necessarily, at this point. And maybe...
Yeah, they're kind of just floating along.
Okay. I always get confused about this. So the guys had the roses this week. So does that mean next week they're going to bring in more guys? Is that what happens?
Yes, because remember, they started coming in later this episode.
Mm-hmm.
With the guy Blake or whatever his name is.
Yeah, you're right. This is such a weird progression of this episode. It's basically like they had their sequence of episodes and then just like chopped it to pieces and just started this episode like in the middle of what should have been an episode and then played through to the middle of another episode.
Oh, yeah, they used to air these episodes where the rose ceremony would actually be the end of the episode, but that hasn't happened in years. I feel like it's always just this kind of hodgepodge.
Well, it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's harder to keep track of things.
There needs to be order in this world, okay?
No, Paradise is very disordered.
Yeah, so I wasn't super surprised about Aaron giving his rose to Chelsea.
Yeah, that one made sense since they actually went out on a date.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thomas to Becca, and that means Demi, Jasenia, Tammy, and Deandra go home.
R.I.P.
I know, it was sad to see Deandra go. She was very entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yes. May they find happiness and followers wherever they have gone to. And then yet another moment that just makes me very uncomfortable. The arrival of my most favorite promo guy.
Lil Jon.
Oh, yeah!
It's so over the top. I didn't know he had this signature like expression before the show.
You would be so uncomfortable to be around him.
Yeah, he's too much. I feel like the quality of the guest or celebrity host continues to plummet.
Oh
Each
boy.
one that comes.
Now this is a hot take from Christy here. Christy is dissatisfied with the progression of guest hosts, and I will say I am as well.
Yeah, we started off great with David Spade.
I want David Spade back.
I know. Why didn't they just have him the whole time?
Maybe they couldn't afford it. They're still making payments on Chris Harrison's payoff.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they could only afford someone famous for one episode. Yeah, so I don't remember either of these guys who joined the party. I have no idea who they are.
Blake apparently was on Claire's season. I don't remember him at all.
That makes two of us.
Grabs Tia to talk, and boy, is she into him.
But like into him very awkwardly.
I didn't find it awkward.
You didn't find her ITM awkward at all?
The one about like her ovulating or whatever.
Yes.
That's very Tia. It didn't feel like an awkward thing for her to say. Like, it's an awkward thing to say in general, but coming from her...
mean, look, that's not like... I'm just saying everything surrounding that. That phrase itself is fine. I'm just talking about the entire... I don't know what we're allowed to say, because this is a family-friendly podcast.
Well, I mean, they said it on the show.
So, we have to strive to meet higher standards, Christy, okay?
Well, are you talking about when they put their, like, okay, so they, like, go on a four-wheeler and drive around for a bit, and then they sit down and talk, and then eventually they get up and, like, strip down to their swimsuits. and make out. You're talking about that part.
Yes, but then her ITM about that.
Well, she also mentioned like something about getting pregnant. Like if it were possible to get pregnant, just as us standing here with our swimsuits on, she would be.
Yes.
I mean, that's a little weird, but I don't know, for coming from her, like it just seemed to make sense.
Yeah, I just
considering how into him she was.
I've just never heard it described in the way that she described it.
Talking about the dancing?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I have heard that before.
What?
Yeah.
From her or just in general?
No, not from her, but in general.
That is bizarre.
Yeah,
I
apparently.
am unfamiliar.
Apparently the goal is to have a guy that makes that part of you dance.
I wasn't aware that was a thing.
Yes.
I honestly don't know what to say to that.
There's probably nothing to say.
I mean, they both didn't believe in soulmates.
True. Yeah.
Just gotta make it work. Just gotta put in the work. No soulmates. And can I just say, this is sort of moving on, and we don't have to if you have more to discuss, but like, Kenny has been to the Boom Boom Room a lot this season.
Yeah, this is his third time. I think.
At least that we know of. Yes.
But at least it's with, a better person.
How dare you? How dare you?
Hey, Mari is objectively better.
See, I don't
or
know
at
if
least more likable.
I don't know if I agree with you on either count, actually. I'm very like, when I see Mari, I just don't care. I can't bring myself to care.
Yeah, but Demi was just so annoying that.
Oh, so this is the bar now. As
Hey,
long as
I'm
you're
working with what I've got.
As long as you're not as annoying as Demi, then you're all right in Christy's book.
Yeah, it's an improvement. So
Christy is all about concrete steps and improvement.
I mean, if those are his two options, then
I would not choose either.
Well, they go to the Boom Boom Room. She says they're going to play patty cake on the bed.
Yeah, sure, whatever. It's definitely going to be very platonic, for sure. It's definitely why you're going to the Boom Boom Room. Congratulations. Ugh. Unbelievable.
All the euphemisms people use for sex on this show is just ridiculous. That might be the silliest one. So Joe arrives.
This is a different Joe. Just so everyone knows. Not grocery store Joe.
No.
I almost called him Garbage Man Joe. No, not the same as grocery store Joe. This is Dr. Joe.
Yeah, and I have a question. Did it seem a little over the top how much the cast talked about like oh, did Nasha really deserves this? She's been hurt so much. Oh, I really hope Joe takes her out on the date. This would just be such a big boost for her. Like, it seemed like they were really laying it on thick.
I mean, I would agree with you that they were.
Like, I was starting to get uncomfortable.
Wow. I mean, the producers may have told them to really sort of boost it up there, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, he eventually does ask her on the date. And at first I thought, oh, this will be good.
No.
And then I forgot that Joe and Brendan are best friends. There are like videos of them on the internet just hanging out all the time. So Joe's like, oh, how come you're not attached at this point? And she has to tell him everything that happened with Brendan, and watching Joe's face was very funny. Like, as he's like shocked, and then he's like, Brendan, huh?
Yeah, he kept, like, he said that over and over again. He's just like, oh, why did it have to be Brendan? Like, all this stuff. It's like, well, maybe you should associate with better people. You know, who don't, I don't know, treat women like trash.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, Joe doesn't know all the nasty things Brendan said about Natasha, but...
Yes, but at the same time, and I'm speculating here, I will freely admit that, but if you have someone perpetuating, like, this kind of behavior on the show, in my personal opinion, it seems very likely that he would have exhibited very similar behavior just in his real life, in other settings, in other situations with women. I would not at all be surprised.
Yeah.
Like,
it just seems like Joe would not tolerate that. But
well, you know what they say. You know, we have all these bros who aren't keeping each other accountable. You know, so it's like, oh, I get along with him. He must not be that bad. I don't know. I got a very specific vibe when Brendan came on the show, and I had no knowledge of him. It would not surprise me if he had behaved very similarly before. So, like, that's part of why I was just like, really? As Joe kept being like, oh, Brendan? Like, oh, you sure it was him? Like, no, I really like you, but, oh, man, my bro, you know,
Yeah, he refused to say anything negative about him, so that basically ruined the date. It's like, where are we going to go from here?
Yep. We can only hope that more men show up before the rose ceremony. Because otherwise, she's screwed.
Yeah, well, she does have the rose, so theoretically she can.
Oh, well, that is true. Yeah,
pick
you're right.
Somebody. But
give a friendship rose.
Yeah, it's kind of late in the game to be doing that, though.
You're telling me. Yeah, I know. Time is limited, Christy. Gotta progress these relationships. You know, you gotta be strong. You gotta be a strongest couple on the beach. Yeah, so I don't think that things are gonna progress between the two of these people.
No, it was very clearly over as soon as it began.
Well, I'm a little irritated Kendall's still here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know why she's torturing herself like this. Like, just go home.
Oh, I can't. It just kills me to see Joe so happy. You know, we used to be in a relationship, and now we're not, and I just, like, if I have to be sad, I want him to be sad, too.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Like, Joe and Serena are, like, making out all the time, and we see them telling each other that they're falling in love.
Yeah, which, it's a big step in paradise, Christy. It's a big step.
Seems like they're the first to say it.
Yeah, though they're not in love yet. We're just getting there.
No,
so,
they're just falling.
Yeah, they're just falling. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. They're just falling. Can we talk about the hilarious moment of
With
rejection? Yes.
Yes.
Again, going back to like, come on, Kendall, just go. Just leave. If you can't handle it, just go. You gotta find your will to live like Joe did, you know? Because, yeah, they're just, she and Ivan are sitting around, and Ivan tries to kiss her, but she sees that Joe and Serena are making out, and she, like, pulls back and avoids it.
Yeah.
So I may not be a particularly experienced person in the romantic area, but I'm pretty sure it's not a great sign if you go to kiss someone and they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah, it was like this really awkward, like, I don't know. Like, he, like, sort of leaned in, and then he, like, tried to play it off like he wasn't trying to. So.
Well, because the last thing you want is to try to kiss someone, and they're like, no, I'm not into it, and then you have to, like, either like, yeah, I just totally struck out here, or like, oh yeah, I was like, I was just like kidding around. I wasn't actually gonna kiss you.
Yeah, especially on national TV for everyone to watch.
Big oof.
Yeah, so at this point, Kendall just gets up and walks off, and that's where we end.
Oh
the
boy.
episode.
Who knows how many more there are left. But I am grateful because, let me just tell you, Christy, and I know you know this, but our faithful listeners might not, but I am incredibly busy right now, and it's very difficult to spend, like, 4 hours of my life watching 2 episodes a week, in addition to recording and producing. It's very difficult. You know, it's been just a huge burden on my shoulders. So
Yes, I'm glad for your sake they cut down to one a week. It was a lot.
Yes, particularly since we're trying to maintain such a tight production schedule here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know our listeners do not like chaos in their podcast feed. They don't like anarchy. So, trying to tighten things up here a little bit.
Yeah, ABC's helping us out.
Thank the Lord. It's about time. It is about time. But yeah, so really the only other thing in this episode was just Aaron giving a list of things he thinks are facts.
Yeah, I have to say one of the lamer tags at the end.
Ooh, another hot take from Christy.
Yeah, it wasn't really that funny, and
I still don't totally understand why he calls Thomas a big body trash can, but
I think he just hates Thomas, and that's his dumb nickname for him.
yeah, I mean, yes, of course, but I don't know if it's just because he's tall, and so he's like, oh, you're just so tall, you look like a trash can. I don't know. But we had it wasn't a super crazy episode in terms of making out. I only recorded 19.
That's still a decent amount considering not a whole lot happened.
Yeah, but it's still pretty light, generally speaking. You know, again, the Lord above only knows how many makeout sessions have actually happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many.
And let me tell you, I am not going to go to ABC and put in a request to see all of their footage so I can figure this out. Because I don't care that much.
No, I would be interested in seeing all the footage of Brendan and Pieper, though.
Oh, to be a fly on that wall. Well, Christy, now that we have just gone over every excruciating detail and stretched this out into a normal length episode, tell us how people can get in touch with us.
You can email us at groupdatespod@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at groupdatespodcast.
That's right. We are just everywhere on the internet. Just making waves, pulling in new audiences from around the globe and the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're just locomotive full steam ahead at this point. So watch out, whatever the other Bachelor Nation podcasts are called.
We're coming for you.
Clickbait, I guess, is one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Etc.
There's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there are. But the final thing I will say is, so glad there's a little justice in this world. And Brendan and Pieper got what was coming to them. This has been Group Dates and Hot Takes, a Bachelor Nation podcast. I'm Sampy.
And I'm Christy. We'll talk to you next week.